So what are you sending out right now? It's always good to go back to that foundation, that vibrational foundation, and be aware of the filters. Is what you're sending out right now in alignment with your blueprint at the very least? If not with your soul, if not with God, if not with the absolute, is what you're sending out right now at least in alignment with your intention for this life? Hierarchically, you can see it as personal filters. Then the blueprint, or the core sort of fourth density blueprint for this incarnation. Then the fifth density higher mind, which sort of overviews as you go and sends you signals. It has the overview, it's the mountaintop view. Then the higher self, or you could loosely call it the soul, which isn't really on your case, like the higher mind is on your case in fifth density. But it's more like this depository of knowledge, this library of knowledge that just sends love and light and is available for guidance and help where needed. And then beyond that is the oversoul, which is essentially one with God. And then beyond that would be the absolute. So in simpler terms, person, blueprint, soul. Soul, in this analogy anyway, being the definition of what you really are, the light that you really are, the least distorted aspect of your individuality. And it just shines like a light. And then the first filter comes over, the first intention, the first need or desire is placed upon that frequency, which alters what you put out, which therefore determines the life experience and the incarnation that you attract or generate. And then within that incarnational life, especially third density, because you forget why you came here, you accumulate many more layers and filters through which that light further gets dimmed and distorted, until all you kind of know is, I am insert name here, and this is my life based on what I interpret my surroundings to be, and what my mom and daddy told me, and what people out there think. So then spirituality, whether in the self-empowerment branch or the self-realization branch, is about retracing some of those steps and getting awareness of that filtration process, clearing some of that stuff out and realigning ourselves to what we really are, matching our physical existence more and more to that metaphysical light that has no form but radiates nevertheless, that information, that energy. So how is what you're radiating right now, what you're expecting, what you're believing, what you're thinking, how is that in or out of alignment with, at the very least, your sort of calling for this life, your core intention? And when I say that blueprint, I don't necessarily mean a plan that's all laid out like this. I'm going to do this for the first 10 years of my life, then this, I'm going to make this switch. And it's not like that. When I say blueprint, I mean it much more rudimentary and instinctively as an intention, a core intention that filters the light of your soul into shape, into form, into a manifest subject, object, illusion, reality, where you get to learn certain things in certain ways, and you get to know yourself in certain ways. And typically that intention has something to do, at least for the people here, with being of service to others. Combination of that and a certain thematic situation that you want to learn from, a certain theme of learning, a certain deficiency in your understanding that wants to be balanced out on a soul level. Your soul is incomplete. It is, compared to our day-to-day experience, it feels very blissful, but it is on its own journey. The soul is not like God. It's not the completed being. It's not the seventh density beingness. It is on a journey. It has its imbalances, and so it generates desires. Its output is not completely unified yet. There's distortions, wobbles, which produce matter. Basically, the universe of matter is the result of wobbles and distortions. The less distortions and wobbles there are, the less physical existence needs to be. Because what is existence in form except symbolization of self? Form is symbolization of self. Form doesn't really exist. From the timeless original point of view, there is never any form. Form doesn't have any existence. It is an illusion. Anything that has form, shape, change, time is an illusion. It's a mirror. It's a reflection. It's a production. It's a projection of light, of not even that, projection of awareness. and it appears to be there, but it has no foundation other than the self. So it's a self-appearance. It's an appearance of the self. It never leaves the self. It never becomes something other than the self. It just appears to be something other than the self. But that's the illusion, you see. But so then what's its purpose? What's the purpose of form? It's to symbolize. It's to reflect. It's permission, to give permission to have a certain experience, to gain certain self-awareness. So if you see everything as symbolization of self, and perhaps more simply for the human mind to understand, symbolization of the soul. Let's say the soul wants to know itself. This is not entirely accurate because the soul is also a symbolization of the self. But to make it perhaps easier for the mind to grok, it's like, let's say that the soul is the self, which again, it's not. You're not the soul. You're way beyond that. But if it was the self, then that soul will produce symbolization so that it can know itself. Because without form, then how would it know? How would it learn? How would it have an interactional experience with itself? How would it develop self-knowledge? You see, the entire universe is a symbolization of the self. What is the self? It's this formless. Ultimately, it's the formless absolute.